This is Change Signal, the podcast where we cut through the blather, the BS, and the noise to find the good stuff that works in change. If you are a transformational leader and you are seeking modern change mastery, well, here's where we cross the finish line with our arms held high. At mbs.works, my website, we have a membership group called The Conspiracy. Conspiracy because it means breathing together. That's the etymology of the word. Now, there are 400 or so people there, all working on their worthy goal, a goal that is thrilling, important, and daunting to them. It's quite an amazing space. The origin of The Conspiracy is a book I wrote called How to Begin. Now, beginning is one thing, but finishing is something else altogether. Charlie Gilkey is a friend of mine and author of a terrific book, Start Finishing. How to begin, start finishing. You can see this is a perfect pairing. Now, every month in The Conspiracy, I teach a new model or a tool or I coach people. And recently, I invited Charlie to share his best insights on how to get things not just started, but well and truly finished. So, you're about to hear a lightly edited version of our conversation. And if you'd like more information about The Conspiracy, there's a link in the show notes. Go to www.mbs.works/the-conspiracy. The-conspiracy. All right, here we go. It is weird that the stuff that the projects, the things that feel important to us, that matter most to us, you know, in my language, it's often a worthy goal or it's great work. They show up 51% I want to do it and 49% I don't want to do it. And that percentage keeps swapping all the time. So let's start there. Just as like, why is it that the stuff we want to do is also the stuff we find resistance and we don't want to do at the same time?
So there's a simple answer there, and we might need to unpack it. So the simplest answer is because it actually friggin' matters to us. That is the important piece, right? Because if you've ever taken on a goal that doesn't matter, like, it's like, okay, I can do it or not do it. And we don't have existential crises about taking the trash out and things like that, because it doesn't matter at a certain point. But any of these worthy goals that we're talking about, we know it matters. And we're afraid of actually two things, right? The sort of top level fear is that it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Right. But the real deeper one is, what if it does, though? What if you choose a worthy goal and by accomplishing that goal, it changes your life into something that you don't know, and something that requires you to renegotiate relational boundaries, something that requires you to move somewhere else. And so there's like this double fear that we don't talk about enough with worthy goals. Is it's like, yes, you might fail, but you might succeed. And that is sometimes the scarier thing.
I think that's so profound. You know, one of the lines from the How to Begin book, and by the way, I love that my book is called How to Begin and your book is called Start Finishing. It's so perfect. But it's like we unlock our greatness by working on the hard things. And what happens when we take on a worthy goal is, I think the commitment to do a worthy goal is future you whispering to present you, come on into the future. The water's fine. It's going to be great. But just as you've said brilliantly, when you take on a worthy goal, you're actually saying it's time to disrupt the present. It's time to kind of tear the fabric of the way things are right now. And that is how you see yourself. It's how others see you. It's the comfort and the familiarity of these are the patterns that play out in my life. You're saying, they've served me in the past. They've stopped serving me now. I'm hungry for more than that. And you've just got like, I am hungry for more than that. But boy, the comfort of the status quo is pretty powerful.
Yeah, and not only that, we're all adults here, so I think I can say it that way. Like, it sucks to suck. And when you take on a new worthy goal, you're probably not going to be good at it. You're probably not going to know what the hell you're doing. You probably don't have that comfortable nap. You probably don't have the funds and resources you need. And you're not going to be good. And so many of us in the circles we run on, our identity in our career is based upon being extremely competent and knowing what we're doing. We're the people turn to. And now you're going to do this worthy goal. You're like, actually, I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't even know how to begin or to start finishing. That's hard.
Very powerful.
It's really hard.
Yeah, and I think actually, because, I would say that a majority of the people on this call are probably mid 30s to mid 60s. That's kind of the thing. I'm in my mid 50s. I'm in my late 50s. Damn it. I enjoyed being in my mid 50s, but I'm now trending rapidly towards my late 50s. But, in some ways, I'll just speak for myself. I'm in my prime competence right now. Like, I have expertise, I have status, I have authority. People think that I actually know what I'm doing. And so to step into a place of conscious incompetence, not only do I not know what I'm doing, but I know that I don't know what I'm doing. It's actually a bit of a kind of a blow to my ego, a blow to my status.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the gift.
Yeah. So help me with, I've got a great work project, a worthy goal. And I'll tell you what it is. So the Coaching Habit turns 10 next year. It's really exciting. I know, it's amazing. Book's been around for 10 years. It's still selling well. It's a thrill. And here's what I would like to do. I would like to find a way of making this book better known for parents and teachers and people who support teenagers, people who support young people. Because young people are up against it. There's a mental health crisis. There's all the stuff we know about life and the world and phones and everything. I want this book to become something that parents and teachers know about and recommend. And I have been faffing on this project for a year and a half. So help me. Help me, Charlie. Help me. What I would love is some of your wisdom and perhaps some of your tools and strategies to help me make some clarity and get some progress around this. So I stop talking about it and I start doing something about it.
I love that setup. And I know you well enough that I can go right to the heart of things and not help through 18 levels of things. What are you afraid of here?
Well, partly it's like I don't have authority in this space. Like, I am not a teacher and I am not a parent. I am delightfully and happily child-free. But there's part of me that just goes, how do I make the bridge to actually speak to parents and speak to teachers when I just don't have that authority? I mean, in the places that this book is known, in the world of coaching and in the world of management, I do have some stories and I do have some credibility. So I'm a little anxious about going, look, I just can't quite figure out how to get there.
So here's sort of the process that we're doing here. So I talk a lot about the air sandwich, Mike. So I know you're familiar with this, but everybody else, right? It turns out you can imagine your life in two different slices of bread, right? So this top slice of the bread is the big vision, the big dreams, the calling that you have for your life. Like, everything is awesome and you're like that superhuman version of yourself. So that's the top slice of bread.
I know that slice.
On the bottom slice of the bread, you have your day-to-day reality and your constraints and the status quo. And for a lot of people, there's a lot of air between those two.
Yeah.
How the hell did I bridge that gap between those two?
Yeah.
But really, that's an illusion, because in between those two slices of bread are 5 things that show up time and time again, right?
Right.
So 1, competing priorities.
Mm-hmm.
2, head trash. Head trash is being the scripts, like the inner critic, the social, the bull crap that you've expeded, that you've taken on, right? All those negative, limiting beliefs and stories. That's the head trash. 3, too few resources.
Mm-hmm.
4, no realistic plan. All 3 of those are important pieces. Okay. And then 5 is poor team alignment. And by team, I don't just mean your business team. I mean your life team too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So what I did with Michael there was actually went right to the head trash, because I've learned time and time again that our head trash creates an unwinnable game before we even start. And so there's no need to jump to other places. And so my go-tos are always to look at competing priorities and head trash. Those two sort of unlocked, then you can start to create a realistic plan. Then you can start to see that maybe you don't have too few resources. And then maybe you'll start to actually tell people what your goal is and build a team around that. So that's why I'm starting with fears. It's usually the key unlock.
That's great. And I just felt a little rush of which is what we're saying at the start, which is like, oh my God, this may turn out worse than I thought, because Charlie may help me figure this out. And then I'm in trouble because I'm going to have to actually act on it. So I don't think we can completely clear out the head trash, because, I don't have a couch. We don't have 9 months. But make a start for me. I mean, where would you start with head trash? How would you start with me trying to push some of that aside?
Well, part of it is to really really deeply understand that sometimes we create head trash because there's a deeper level thing that we don't want to grapple with, and that becomes the easy excuse. So if I were going super hard into coach mode, Mike, I would be like, that's not the real thing, right? You're saying you don't know how to build credibility with people who are adjacent to your current audience in your area of mastery. I've seen you do this so many times, right? So that's not the real story, right?
All right. This is a nightmare. This is turning into a nightmare.
Like, I should have gone to webinar run. I should have had him just teach.
Yeah.
And so underneath that, what is that story giving you the ability to not grapple with?
Perhaps the deeper thing is like, I am a little scared of teenagers. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a parent. I'm not a teacher. But I'm like, I just don't have that much experience of teenagers. And I have nieces and nephews who are all in this kind of zone. And I love them. But they're also kind of like alien creatures to me. And so it's a little bit like, I don't want to have to turn into a awkward mocked teenager again by dealing with teenagers who are, brilliant at sarcasm and eye rolling and kind of all of that stuff.
Okay. I think what's going on here is there's this sort of being accustomed to being a familiar expert, and the respect that you get from being a familiar expert and walking into a domain to where someone can be like, his hair was funny, or like boomer or whatever, and they just throw around random teenager insults, and you don't know what to do with that, and it actually does hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's just part of that going through that process again, that the more successful this book comes, the more you're going to be a meme, right? The more that's going to have and you're like, I'm not ready for that level of daily sort of stuff. I've gotten comfortable here, right? And so in this scenario, when there actually is a true fear there that ties to something, what I start coming back to is like, okay, let's go back to the real goal about this, because sometimes the mission and the beneficiaries for who will benefit from this, that is worth the hardship that you're going to go through, right? Even if you get 100 emails a week of teenagers making fun of you, there might be 100 or 1,000 other parents and kids saying, this really helped me. Like, this helped me see the world a different way. And sometimes you just got to hang on to that piece.
Okay. This is really helpful, Charlie, which is like, here's how you start with head trash. It's like, get to what the real challenge is, to use a well-known coaching question that I like. And that was helpful how you kind of pushed me to go a little deeper around that. And then it's to like hold that against this idea of what's the impact? What's the win here? In the How to Begin book, I talk about every choice you make. If I'm saying yes to this, has prizes and punishments. And what you're reminding me of is like, I've got to look at the prizes and punishments and go, look, the prizes outweigh the punishments. I'm up for this.
Exactly.
You talked about the 5 other things that are as part of the air sandwich. We've talked about head trash. What was the other one that you said was the number one? Was it competing priorities?
Competing priorities. All of us have explicit priorities and we have implicit priorities, right? A lot of times we'll see a competition between the explicit priority, which is to get this book into more hands of people, right? To really change that, with the implicit priority of being comfortable and safe and not being made fun of. And those two are in your case going ahead, but it's also going to cost you money and time, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a considerable effort. And so there's a competing priority of like, when I look at what my business is now, when I look at where I want to go now, I'm not saying you think this, Michael, but I'm like, knowing where you are now and where the coaching habit was, you might have competing priorities between what you're trying to do now and what that book is doing, right? And really sort of unpacking and trying to do the best you can to either align those priorities and say, actually, they're tied to these things that I need to make explicit, so that I know that if I were to frame it, Michael, I'd be like, this is actually, one, it's mission work for you. It always has been, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't go away just because it's back catalog. 2, this establishes you in a way that helps you on your current pathway too. It's not old stuff, it's now stuff. So what would happen if this is super successful, and what does that unlock for you, both from mission and values, but also for strategic opportunities?
Competing priorities is a big topic, and it's really worthy of a whole interview in and of itself. If you do want to start somewhere, I'd recommend Bob Keegan and Lisa Leahy's book, Immunity to Change. They have a helpful process there for uncovering not just competing priorities, but often unconsciously competing priorities.
And then that's how we sort of get out of like, oh, this isn't a competition. It just looked different. And this is where, for like another sort of way to think about it, we're sort of shifting into 3 levels of success for goal setting. We don't talk about this nearly enough, I think, right? So you have small success, you have moderate success, and then you have epic success, or if you're not a millennial, maybe call it extreme success, right? Yeah. And a lot of times what we do is we take on a worthy goal, but we automatically apply the extreme settings on that one. Like you, especially with the coaching habit, like how do you do this so that it sells another 3 million copies? Yeah. Right? So we didn't have to do that, right? You could have said, this is a worthy goal. I'm going to choose a moderate level of success and define what that is. And here's the key thing. You cannot get epic or extreme success by yourself. If you look at any of your goals and you're like, oh, I can do that. Like I can sort of shoulder through it and I can sort of align and I can do it. And you can achieve that goal and it feels that way. At best, that is a moderate goal. You cannot have extreme or epic success by yourself. Right. And so that's the other vector that I would want you to push on this particular project is really sit down, say, this is what this is designed to do, because that's going to determine all of the project planning pieces. That's going to determine your budget. That's going to determine your ask. But if it's just this sort of silent goal that you got to sell 3 million copies of this, it's not going to work.
I hear you. And you're like, we spend years now agreeing vigorously on this, which is like, if you're trying to do it all by yourself, you've misunderstood the brief. And of course, part of why we built the conspiracy is this is where you find your people. I mean, I know you use the phrase success packs, which I love. It's like, who do I run with? Who are the people who supports me, encourage me, push me, nudge me, see me? And part of the point of the conspiracy is not just to do the work, but it's to find your people with whom you do the work. So you need your cheerleaders and your people around you, but you also often need a team. And at the moment, it's just me with the book. So I need to be thinking about that. You'll find Charlie's book, Start Finishing, in all the usual places. Seth Godin calls it a game changer. And you'll find Charlie at productiveflourishing.com. Okay, back to our conversation. Now, Charlie, one of my favorite tools that you talk about in the book, Start Finishing, is the 5-10-15 tool. I love a tool with a slightly mysterious title. So help me with this. How's this going to save me?
Okay, so it's the 5-10-15 rule here. So 5, let's start there. I'm going to have to unpack this one because it's going to sound exceptionally nerdy, so bear with me, you all, right? So the 5 stands for no more than 5 active projects per time horizon. No more than 5 active projects per time horizon, which my community and myself call the 5-project rule, right? Mm-hmm. And so to best understand this, we look at the per time horizon piece first. So first off, we humans are terrible at estimating time, but we are actually really good at understanding how big a project might be. So we kind of know what a month-sized project looks and feels like. We kind of know what a quarter-sized project feels like. And we kind of know what like a year, but we also know on a given day, what does 5 meaningful chunks of work look like? So we're good at that, but terrible at time estimates. So I'm hacking that, saying, okay, if you're sitting around and thinking about this quarter's goals, no more than 5 active projects, right? So 5 quarter-sized goals / projects for you to work on, because it's going to help you normalize, 1, that you can't do all the things.
Yeah.
And 2, any project you do, hate to say it, you all, any project you do displaces at least one other project you could have done in that same amount of time.
This is exactly why this is all so hard. I mean, it's not just some cold, rational choice. There's always guilt and anxiety about the choices you make on what to do, and also the choices you make about what not to do. This is, in fact, one of the hallmarks of being an adult in your own life. You make tough choices, you have anxiety, and you have guilt. It's annoying, isn't it?
And so over this quarter, I'm just going to use that as a time frame. By the way, the quarter is a really good time horizon for mastering your momentum and getting worthy goals and projects done. That's really, and most of the work that I do is teaching people how to fold and weave quarters, not just how to rock a daily or weekly to-do list. Okay. So those are 5 projects.
What actually is a project?
So a project is anything that takes time, energy, and attention to unfold over time. which is a lot. Life projects count, y'all. Here's what we do. Here's the magical thinking we do to ourselves. We sort of magically divide ourselves into personal time in life and then work time in life. And then we double up both, right? Doesn't work that way, y'all. Like your math is not mathing on this one. So 5 projects at a time. So unfortunately, getting sick is a project for the time horizon in which you're sick and the recovery from that.
Right.
Dealing with a disability, getting divorced, moving, getting your kids out of the house finally is a project. And we punish ourselves so heavily because we don't account for the projects we're actually doing. And we're like, oh, I have this mythical version of myself that has all of this free time, energy, and attention to work on this stuff. You don't. Yeah. Sorry, but also not sorry.
Yeah.
Right. And so if it requires time, energy, and attention over time, and I tend to, in this model, Michael, sort of hand wave some of the more routine projects. Like if you don't put taking the trash out on your daily to-do list, it's not a thing. That's a recurring project. But if it's really one of these worthy goals and projects you're trying to figure out, it's a project. The 10 is the 10-minute check-in. So the 10-minute check-in is in the morning or before you start working, check in to see what your 5 projects are. So that way you're staying like mindful of where you are.
Yeah.
But it's a trick. I would say it's the 5, 15, 10, but that's even more mysterious. Part of the 10, what you're doing is checking in on the plan you made for yourself in the last 15 minutes of yesterday. Right. Because it turns out if you have a 15-minute checkout at the end of the day, that version of you is actually probably the more discerning and sober version of you. Like I'm a morning person, so I know morning Charlie writes all sorts of checks that midday and afternoon Charlie cannot cash, right? But the end of the day, Charlie is actually really good about like, do this one thing tomorrow and call it good, right? And so it's looking back over previous versions, Charlie, that's probably the saner version and saying, what did that version say to do? Do I need to make any necessary adjustments because life can happen overnight? But then follow that plan. And what this will do is if your worthy goal truly is one of your 5 projects, you will not get far away from it. It will not become some sort of thing that ended up as some fever dream that you had on a plane trip or that one conversation Michael and Charlie had. No, it will actually be something that you come back to time and time and time again. So check in with your 5 projects. 2, the 10 is the check-in in the morning that gets you realigned with your map and your project. And the 15 is at the end of the day, giving yourself the grace to, instead of doom scrolling or checking social media or just sort of half sliding out of the office saying, okay, here's what got done. Here's what didn't get done. Here's what I'm excited about. Here's what I'm going to work on tomorrow.
Nice.
That's the 5, 10, 15 split.
That's a really helpful setup. Particularly this discipline around no more than 5 projects. You don't have to have 5 projects. You can have 4, you can have 3, but no more than 5. Charlie, we've got a little bit of time left, and so it seems appropriate that I ask you about time blocking and how that works. And I would love you to make this work for me because I've been, I think, trying to do time blocking for 40 years, and it's never quite worked for me.
Well, time blocking is the basic idea of, instead of using normal sort of calendar time, you define your time based upon different blocks of work that you're going to use. And so in my world, there are 4 different types of blocks to know about. So the first block are your focus blocks. And these are the blocks of time that you spend committed to, devoted to, or focused on a specific project without changing context. They tend to be 90 to 120 minutes long because that matches, 1, our circadian rhythms. 2, it's the limit of our attention for most of us.
Yeah, as a personal opinion here, I find 90 minutes is the limit for most of us. 120 minutes feels like a stretch a lot of the time.
And 3, it's long enough that you can make substantial progress on something and leave yourself breadcrumbs at the end of that thing so that you set yourself up for next time. So focus blocks, 90 to 120 minutes. Social blocks. These are blocks of time where you're spending time with other people. You're either doing something like Michael and I are doing now, you're in a conversation. These are when you're sort of those times of the day in which you're best fit for human consumption. And sometimes you're just not there, other times you are. So these also tend to be 90 to 120 minutes long. But people are like, wait, Charlie, don't most meetings go an hour? And I'm like, yes. But think about the prep work before that meeting. in that conversation, and think about the inevitable admin that falls out. And if we don't account for those, we either slide into the meeting and we're sort of like, what's going on? We spend 20 minutes figuring out what the hell we're doing. And then we get out to the end of the meeting and then we stack up a bunch of them. At the end of the week, we're just scattered because we've overloaded ourselves with too many open to-dos, right? Third is an admin block. And this is what it sounds like. It's 30 minutes to 60 minutes to where you just clear out the emails, you make the phone calls, you do all that sort of things in a small batch, 30 to 60 minutes. Why not longer? Because most of us want to jump off a bridge if we spend way too much time doing this. And it also helps focus because realistically, if it's one of those blocks where you have to send a few emails, I've done this enough to know that most of those emails we're avoiding are going to take at least 20 minutes.
Yeah. Nice.
So you can say, I've got an admin block. What are the 3 most important emails that I'm going to get out today? Or what are the 3 calls that I'm going to do? And you don't make yourself that list of doom that you're not going to get through. You're not going to do 82 tasks in a time block. Sorry. The last one is a recovery block. Now, this one's really variable for 2 reasons. It's not what the activity is, it's what it does for you. So there are some people for whom CrossFit is a recovery block. I am not one of those people.
Napping is a recovery block.
Napping is a recovery block, right? And so the amount of time that it takes is the amount of time that it takes based upon the type of activity. Michael, way back in 2010 when I was teaching this, recovery blocks were not part of the framework.
Right.
And I realized that my assumption that people would just make sure they had enough of recovery blocks was so flawed, so flawed that I had to make it. Now, here's the important piece to know when it comes to worthy goals and project plannings, okay? Try to chunk your projects down into focus blocks to say, what can I do in this focus block? Because we're usually pretty good at understanding what we can do in 90 to 120 minutes. We're terrible at understanding what we can do in 23 minutes. No one knows that, right? So chunk your projects down so that you can sort of think like, oh, that part of the project is going to take me roughly 6 blocks.
Yeah.
But the other thing to know about this is if you have no or too few focus blocks, you have no fuel for your worthy goal. If you have no fuel for your worthy goal, it is not going to go anywhere. You don't have a character problem. You don't have a competency problem. You have a math problem, right? The rough guideline here is 3 focus blocks per week per project. Now, here's why this works out. If you can't commit to 3 focus blocks per week per project, that's saying that there's other things going on in your business, life, your career that are creating constraints. Those constraints are going to be there whether or not you call them out or not, but it's saying like, oh, I need to do some working here so that I either get 3 focus blocks per week per project or that I temper my expectations about how long this thing is going to take.
Right.
One of the two. But the magical thinking that you've got no time and you're going to push this worthy goal forward is not helping anyone, right?
No, it's profound, Charlie. That math and that equation, which is like, all right, 3 blocks per project per week. You know, as soon as you say that, I'm like, oh, okay, well, that explains everything. In terms of what I'm trying to do, I've got way too many focus blocks. I've got too few on some projects and too many on others. There's an accounting that needs to happen for me, for sure.
Correct. And the power that we have, I think that we don't really focus on enough is we get to choose what gets our attention. Now, if you set your schedule up so that a bunch of stuff that are not your worthy goal gets your attention, by default, your worthy goal is not getting your attention. Yeah. So many of this 5, 10, 15 splits, like those types of things, are trying to get your attention on this thing that matters that will otherwise fall into the background to the tyranny of the urgent and other people's priorities.
Charlie, I'd love you to leave us with kind of one final, what needs to be said about getting stuff finished that hasn't yet been said.
I think I want to say sort of 2 things if I can. One is fear is a signal that something matters, right? Too many people see fear and they think it's a signal that they shouldn't do something. And I want to invert that impulse to say, if you're afraid about it, especially as it comes to worthy goals, it's because something matters to you. Figure out what that is. And as much as people come to me for project planning and that side of things, what I will actually tell people to do is, for many of us, it's better to commit to it and figure it out than to figure it out before we commit to it.
Yeah.
So if you've got a worthy goal, like, got tools for how to build a success back, but commit and really dive in sooner versus spend years trying to figure it out and never committing to actually doing the project.
What a helpful, practical conversation that was with Charlie. I mean, some of this is, of course, scalable to your change team, but I think a lot of what Charlie's offering is about helping you and those around you manage your own sense of overwhelm so you can get things finished. I love how grounded so many of these insights are. Thank you for all you do to support Change Signal, whether that's a review or a posting on LinkedIn. And if you're interested in learning more about the conspiracy, it really is an amazing community. Conspirators working on their worthy goals. We open the doors 3 times a year. You'll find it at mbs.works/the-conspiracy. mbs.works, that's the website, and then /the-conspiracy. Thanks for doing the work. I'm glad you're here.